boy, what weird-looking coat hangers.
Little surprises around every corner, but nothing dangerous.
Hello everyone, Frank and Darren back again, and this time we're doing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the best of worst of, for Easter.
Happy Easter, folks.
Happy Easter. This movie wasn't a blockbuster. It became a cult following later on, didn't it? I mean, and plus the guy who wrote the actual book hated this movie.
Disowned it, did Roald Dahl. And I don't know why, because it's ever since I saw it as a kid, I just thought the movie's so charming. Like, every aspect of it. But I always think that there's a real dark... I mean, there is with Roald Dahl anyway, because he's pretty dark as it goes. But
Was.
Yeah, was. But throughout this, there are certain things that are done and said throughout where you think, ooh, you know, that's really, and we never know what happens to the kids. And that's why we're kind of in the fortunate position to be able to still use our best and worst kills in this, because we don't know if they survive or not. He hints that they might be boiled, sent to the furnace. What else? Trash. Yeah, there's all sorts of kind of, suggestions about what happens to these poor kids. But
getting packed in fudge.
Yeah, exactly. It's dark. It is very dark.
And there's jokes in there, or little, sayings that only adults would get.
Yeah.
You know, candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker.
Yeah. And you've got what was it now? Butterscotch, butter gin in the background.
Yeah. So if you guys go online, you can go online, and then this is a topic for, I think maybe Collider or one of those sites. They actually have 5 of the dirtiest lines in cinematic history are from.
Oh, really?
This movie. Especially when Violet says it's warm and creamy and it's sliding down my throat.
There is a few
stuff like that. But but only adults would get it. Like we said, butterscotch, butter gin, something else going inside of it.
Yeah. There's all sorts of stuff peppered throughout this, and some really dark imagery as well, especially on the boat ride. But what a smart idea in terms of when it first came out, because this film was like a US UK co-production, but filmed in Germany with a kind of international cast, so you've got Americans, you've got Brits, you've got Germans throughout, and little people,
and financed with German gold that they found.
Yeah. Well, I mean, critics loved it, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, audience scores 87%. I don't know anybody that dislikes this film. And released on June 30th, 1971. So it's now 54 years old, this film.
My God.
It is. Directed by Mel Stewart. You've got Gene Wilder, Peter Ostrom as Charlie Bucket, Jack Albertson as Grandpa Joe, who wasn't as old as he looks when he made this film. He did Poseidon kind of 2 years after this, I think. Then you've got, who else have you got? Roy Kinnear, Leonard Stone, Denise Nickerson, Ursula Wright, Michael Ballner, Augustus Gloop. Let me in, I'm starving. Augustus Gloop. A really, really beautiful production. And what was really cool about it is that they kept the kids back from the set. Yeah. So that when they go in there for the first time, their reactions are all genuine. And it looks great. Don't know about them licking the walls in that scene, though. That's a bit weird, is that? But it's a magical little movie, and better than the 2 films that have come after it, I think.
And in your eyes, better than the Goonies without the screaming and the kids.
Oh, Jesus Christ. There's not a great deal of screaming in this, surprisingly. No. But
there was screaming when they did the Willy Wonka experience in real life, though.
Oh, the Scottish thing that happened? So let's give this a go then, because we've been asked like a number of times now to do this, and it just with it being Easter, it just feels really kind of appropriate to do it right now.
And actually, to tell you the truth, I think that I always get confused by the setting, because you said it was filmed in Germany, filmed in Berlin, but we have a mixture of American kids mixed in with British kids. Do you think this has something to do with after the war?
It was not long after that. I mean, I say not long after the war. It was about 15 years after the war or something, wasn't it? Or 16 years, something like that. Well, they would have gone into production probably in 1970. So It's interesting when you see Charlie wandering around the streets. It's clearly set in, I think it's West Germany, that it was filmed.
We don't see the wall.
Yeah, and there are VWs all over the place and German signage all over the place. Yeah. It's and then obviously people like Slugworth, and that's a German actor that they used for that character. So there was obviously a conscious effort for an international appeal on this, which you didn't get much of back then. It's more, prevalent now. Whenever you do an action movie, you've got an international cast in there. It's a thing that studios actively take into consideration these days. But back then, it was kind of unusual for that to happen, and so it's kind of nice to see when you watch it.
And you don't get fixated on it.
No, it just flows. It really does.
But I love this movie. It's really completely dark. But yeah. Okay, so let's start for Easter. For everybody who's been asking, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, your best character.
Best character is Willy Wonka. Is Gene Wilder. As a kid, I was kind of brought up on this actor. So films like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, films like Silver Streak, Stir Crazy, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, The Woman in Red, just tons of great feel-good movies that guy was in. And, I watched his documentary in the last year or so, and it was just fascinating. They really do focus on Willy Wonka for a large part of it, and it was fascinating to hear him talk about this. And he had certain stipulations before he played that character, which I'll come on to later on in the episode. But he was just perfect for this, absolutely perfect, because he has this look of being incredibly menacing at times, but also very trusting as well when he wants to be
charming.
Charming. So I just thought it was perfect casting for him. It really, really was.
I'm glad you picked him because it's the obvious choice, but I'm going to go with someone different. I have two. I have Mr. Turkentine, played by David Battley. Is he an old time British actor? He has an unusual look.
He is. He's been in a few sitcoms in the UK. I don't think he's around anymore. I think he's been dead a few years. I do remember him being on a few TV shows in the UK. But yeah, he's quite fun in this.
2? What do you mean you only opened 2?
I don't care very much for chocolate.
Well, I can't figure out.
Yeah, 2? I can't figure out 2. It's an honest teacher, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I can't figure that out. And then, but also my favorite is Henry Salt.
You sure this thing will float, eh, Wonka?
With your buoyancy, sir, rest assured.
Roy Kinnear.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's got this Oliver Hardy kind of vibe against him, before going for him.
Yeah.
Like he'll be like, oh, he's at it again, and he's always on his guard. He's always trying to be, either though, because I strive to be him as a father. When my kids are yelling at me, and my wife will say, you're gonna give it to him, aren't you? You're gonna let him walk all over you. I can't help it. I love him so much. Stuff like that. I want to give him what I want. So I think a lot of fathers are like Henry Salt. Him with his looks, because he does the double take, doesn't he? Anytime.
Oh, he's got that classic British comedic face. You know what I mean? He's been in so much stuff, and he's father of Rory Kinnear, who
is he?
Yeah, Rory Kinnear, who in the last 4 Bond movies or whatever, also in Men, and if anybody over here has seen Banker Dave on Netflix, he's a big actor in the UK.
And his father died fairly young.
He did. He fell off a horse in production.
God,
don't laugh. That's what happened. He fell off a horse in production for one of the Musketeers movies in the early 90s, I think, the very early 90s. Very tragically died on set.
Dangerous animals, aren't they?
They are. But
so would you go back? Would you go up on one?
I've ridden a horse a couple of times. I don't mind it. I quite enjoy it.
Oh, with your polo matches with the king. I get it. Yeah, but Henry Salt, I love him so much. He's just When they're doing that, because there was that part where they're walking down the steps to go into the invention room to the what room is it? The main room with everything, with all the chocolate waterfall. It's not the inventing room. It's the.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Anyway,
The
it's
one where
that
we
room.
lose Augustus.
Yeah. When they were dancing and he's singing, going down the steps, when he flicks that cane, and Henry goes, "That's a real reaction." A lot of this stuff is ad-libbed, and it works. It absolutely works. So yeah. So Mr. Turkentine and Henry Salt,
Yeah.
love them.
Good
Both
stuff.
both odd.
Yeah. Oh no, they're classic British comedic actors, and are very sort of animated in the way that they, react to things and that. They're very, their face tells it. They're funny looking guys to begin with, so it's they were a credit to this film.
Veruca, sweetheart, angel. Okay. Your worst character.
Worst character in this, I've got to say, is Grandpa George.
Okay, because you got Grandpa George, Grandpa Georgina, Grandpa Joe, Grandpa Josephine.
Yeah. So
They're all named after the same letters. But why Grandpa George?
Because he's kind of like, well, he's uncredited in the film to begin with.
Okay, that's not his problem.
He's just kind of, he doesn't have a line in the film. There's no dialogue whatsoever. He just sits in the bed. Now, I know in the book, I think he definitely had dialogue in the book, but he hadn't been out of bed in 20 years. And so that's.
And in the remake.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons. Was it Christopher Lee in the remake?
As the father, as Willy Wonka's father.
Was Christopher Lee Willy Wonka's father?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, was he? Okay, I couldn't remember whether he was one of the grandparents. Anyway, but yeah, he hasn't been out of bed supposedly in 20 years, and you obviously have that connection there between Charlie and Grandpa Joe. It's very obvious in this. But they do just sort of cast aside the other two grandparents and don't really utilize them whatsoever, other than for characters in the background in the bed. They may as well not be there,
Yeah.
They're just kind of sat there and not even speaking. It's almost like they're not a member of the acting society over there, because nothing comes out of their mouth. They just sort of move their heads and nod and all that kind of stuff. Now, if he hasn't been out of
somebody
bed
from the nursing home down the street and prop them up.
yeah. If he hasn't been out of bed for the last 20 years, where's he putting his own chocolate?
In the bedpan where it goes.
I have no idea.
I always wondered this, Darren. Whose foot is going where?
It's a very uncomfortable scenario, isn't it?
I mean, we both love our spouses, so we get uncomfortable sometimes. We toss and turn. But what would you do if you turned over and there was a foot right there? Especially if it's Grandpa George's.
Oh.
And that one toenail's going up your nose. I always said that. How do they get in and out of bed? How do they get washed? How do they do all that?
Yeah.
As you say, Grandpa Joe, he wants Charlie to have the world. They all think of the world of Charlie.
Yeah. And he's
Because
obviously lost his father, hasn't he, in some way?
Yes, industrial accident. Who knows? Yeah, but okay. I'm going to break your heart now, because Grandpa George, in real life, was a World War I hero who was gassed and lost half his eyesight.
The actor in the film?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Now
And
I
they
feel
had
bad.
to actually shine red lights at his eye so he can look where to look when Charlie spoke and everything. So how do you feel now?
I feel terrible now. I think it's beautiful that he's in this film.
Where do you want me to look, David? I've been gassed. Right here.
The poor
Yeah,
bloke.
he's a World War I hero, and you're making fun of him for not having a line.
Oh dear, poor bloke.
Bless
Poor
him.
bloke.
I don't know if there's any more World War I heroes left. I don't think
Yeah.
so. But
I just think that he could have been a better character if they'd have given him something to say and made him more integral to the plot, rather than just a bit of kind of. There's no point in being there. That's it. He's there because he's part of the book. That's it.
Would it be great if him and the other three were dead and they thought they were just sleeping for about 4 years?
Jesus Christ. You're making this film darker than what it actually is.
Grandpa Joe was the only one alive. It would work because none of them say anything.
He may as well be the only one
Yeah.
alive because none of the others do it. Anyway, we're slagging this film off too much because it's a
we could go
masterpiece,
on.
but
We can go on.
No.
Grandpa Josephine better watch out. Grandpa Joe is up. Okay. My worst character. Now, everybody ready for this? Charlie's mother,
Really?
Mrs. Bucket.
She's got a hard job. She has a hard job being a single parent with that family, having to clean all
Washing
those
undies.
all those old people in that bed. It's hard. How can you pick her for that? That's worse than my choice as worst character.
Well, she wasn't in World War One. You know,
She would have been.
She
Not
coulda-
one.
She could have been
two.
a nurse.
She would have been in 2. Yeah.
Yeah, she would have been in 2.
Yeah.
But seriously, I mean, she made cabbage soup every day for them in the same pot she washed some guy's shirt in. Every time Charlie came to her and said, you know, I'm having a bad day, and she's like, deal with it.
Yeah. I kind
Come
of
on, then
agree
she
with
goes
her.
to that song, you know, cheer up, Charlie.
Yeah.
You didn't do shit for me, Mom. I'm taking Joe. I'm not taking you. I'm taking because he actually cares. He bought me chocolate. You gave me a scarf. That's not going to save me. I'm going to hang myself with that scarf you and the other grandmas made me. You know, like Grandpa George or Grandpa Joe gave me some food, substance. They want that golden ticket. And you said to me, there's about 4 billion people in this world, and they're all looking for them, and you're not going to get one. So grab a pair of clothes. Let's start, you know, wrapping them around and drying them off so we can get home, and I can clean the old buzzards in the bed. That's her. That's Mrs. Bucket.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best line.
There's a few. So I've got,
Okay.
I mean, the first one is when he is, and I'm going to try and read this out now. It's when he's on about, I guess, liberating the Oompa Loompas.
Mhm.
And he turns to I think he turns to, is it Veruca or Violet? I can't remember now, and says, oh, well, then you know. Oh, no, it's Mrs. TV. It's Mrs. TV. Yeah. He says, oh, well, then you know all about it and what a terrible country it is. Nothing but desolate wastes and fierce beasts. And the poor little Oompa Loompas were so small and helpless, they would get gobbled up right and left. A wangadoodle would eat their... A wangdoodle would eat 10 of them for breakfast and think nothing of it. And so I said, come on and live with me in peace and safety, away from all the wangadoodles and hornswogglers and snozwangers and rotten vermicious kids. What is it? Rotten vermicious
Nids.
nids. And rotten vermicious nids. Great. The great old load of nonsense that Roald Dahl would always cough up all these kind of really weird and kind of, you know, some of them, I guess, dirty words in some people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
And they know, obviously, the boat trip, there's no earthly way of knowing which direction we are going. There's no knowing where we're rowing or which way the river's flowing. Is it raining? Is it snowing? Is a hurricane a-blowing? Not a speck of light is showing, so the danger must be growing, and the fires of hell are glowing. Is the grizzly reaper mowing? Yes, the danger must be growing, for the rowers keep on rowing, and they're certainly not showing any signs that they are slowing.
Ah!
Oh, dear.
Just screams at him.
Yeah. Great moment. And there's all this imagery going on in the background with
Yeah.
the various things going on. And yeah. And it's just that maniacal side to him that you see that, you know, makes you think every so often that, can we trust this guy?
Mm-hmm. Hornswangers. Mrs. Knids. What kind of rubbish is that? I'm sorry. All questions must be submitted in the form of writing. I just love it how when she said, Mr. Wonka, I'm a teacher of geography. Oh, then you know all about it.
Yeah.
Just proves his point. There's so many great lines coming from him.
Yeah.
You know, especially when Mike TV is shouting, goes, you want to scream a little louder? I'm a bit of deafness here. It's so great, but for me, the one line I wait for, Darren, I mean, because there's plenty. I could do everything. I can recite this movie left, right, and center. Is the one line in the beginning when Augustus is going up the pipe and he's chewing on something and he goes, "The suspense is terrible."
The suspense is terrible. I hope it'll last.
I hope it'll last.
Yeah.
He's just watching. And he's delighted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you look at it, these kids represent one of the deadly sins. You have Augustus, which is gluttony.
Yeah.
You have Mike as sloth, because remember, he won't leave. He won't leave the TV. He has to watch. He has to get served right there.
Yeah.
Of course, you got Greed from Veruca Salt, which is a great band too. And and Violet.
With arms wide open. That one.
That's Greed.
Oh, okay.
And Violet is Pride.
Okay, fair enough.
She's the chewer. She's the constant chewer.
Yeah.
She has a world record. And if you looked at the rest of you look at Willy, he doesn't make eye contact with Charlie at all that much.
No. And it's also interesting that I almost, every time I watch this film, I get the feeling that each child shows their arse within the first moment that they meet this guy. So Willy Wonka knows in that opening scene when he meets them, not the opening scene, but in that first scene when he meets the kids, who is going to get the chocolate factory? Because each one of them shows what a brat they are, apart from Charlie. Yeah.
And he doesn't want to tip him off or anything like that.
No,
He goes, I read about you all in the paper.
Yeah.
You know, I got 4 others at home. Charming. Charming. Bam, you're dead. Wonderful to meet you. What kind of gun
he really
you got
does
here?
slug him in the stomach with that gun as well, doesn't he? Yeah.
Got a cane? Okay, your worst line.
Worst line is it's really dark. I couldn't find a worst line, but towards the end I was really struggling and I was thinking there's another Gene Wilder moment that's dark. And I'm not going to say this is worst line. I'm going to say it's like one of the darkest lines.
Okay.
When the elevator goes up and he said, and Grandpa Joe says, "This room is made of glass. We'll be cut to ribbons." And he goes, "Probably."
It's like John Carpenter's response.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get it over with. Yeah, I laugh at that too. But he's really just like, Willy Wonka is kind of like, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
You know, just like where he talks about when Violet's turning into a blueberry, he goes, it always happens around the desserts. And he doesn't care about her.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? He's like, oh, well, I'll just figure it out. You know, he was like, I'll figure out. But my worst line is Violet picking her nose. And she says, spitting's a dirty habit. And she really is digging in there. Now, in real life, that girl, she was smitten with Charlie.
Oh, really?
And she hated picking her nose and hating wearing that makeup because she thought he was cute.
Oh, really? What,
Yeah,
when she
there.
explodes, when she blows up? Yeah, yeah.
And that stuff wouldn't come off her face for a couple days.
Oh, really? Wow.
Child labor laws. Okay. Okay. Your best kill.
Okay, best kill. I mean, I'm gonna. I think it's probably gonna be Augustus. Falling into that lake of chocolate and then going through all those pipes and everything, and and then Willy Wonka explains that he's gonna be poured into the boiler after that if they don't stop him quick enough. And you never know. There's no scene at the end of this film where you could have had a moment. It would have happened nowadays. It would happen, but it leaves it so ambiguous as to what's happened to these kids. Did Violet explode? Did Veruca go into the furnace? Did Mike TV? Did they stretch him back into shape? Because in the second film, in the remake, they do, don't they? I believe.
Taffy Puller.
Yeah, yeah. In this, they don't. It's just whether he's left or not. But I always figure that if this was remade now, you would have a shot. Whereas the glass elevator's going off over the town and all the kids are looking up at it as it leaves, so that they're safe and well. But no, this just leaves you wondering whether or not Augustus was poured into boiling water, Violet exploded, Veruca went into the furnace, and Mike TV, whether he's either that big or still in 1,000 particles. So I'm going to go with Augustus, I think. I think that scene there when he's going through the pipe work. This fat kid. We're first introduced to eating a plate full of bratwurst.
Oh.
And you get that the shot with Slugworth coming up to him and he's talking into his ear. But at the same time as he's talking into his ear, I don't know if you've noticed, he's bribing him with more sausage and putting sausages on his plate.
And he's looking at it too. Kind of like saying more.
Oh, it's funny is the film. It really is. So I'm going to say Augustus Gloop.
And Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, you do see the kids.
At the end.
Then Willie does at the end of this movie say they'll be returned to their normal bratty selves.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think he's okay. They're okay. But my best kill is going to have to be Mike TV. It's because the way his mom picks him up and he's frailing about, puts him in a purse, and she's dealing with it, going, well, and he just says, well, apparently like this, these little boys are very nimble, and he's swinging that thing, and she faints. Take him to the taffy puller. Taffy puller? Oh, great, he's unharmed.
See, I didn't know
unharmed.
I didn't know what a taffy puller was. And now I remember when we did that episode when you were making me eat all that horrible American candy, there was some taffy there, wasn't there?
Laffy Taffy.
Taffy.
Taffy. Yeah, there was some taffy.
Yeah.
And you could stretch it.
Yes.
So
Now I
it's
get
just
it. Now
it's
I
just
get
a big hook.
Yeah.
There's a big hook, and you pull it, and you stretch it out. And that's what they did to Mike. They put his little ass up there, and they pulled him and stretched him out. Yeah, but just the way he was swinging that purse.
Yeah.
And it's like little bits of throw up in there. I would have took it and gone like this. And for one instant, Darren, and Oompa Loompa felt taller.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I always felt was a bit of a missed opportunity as well, just to get a little kind of, I mean, I'm being very guttural here, but the bit when Grandpa Joe and Charlie are floating up to the ceiling and they're going to go into that fan, and Grandpa Joe figures out that if you burp,
I'm going down.
You will start to drop. Could they have at least added one fart in there as well, just to get them down?
They probably would have just fell flat.
Grandpa
Joe has a lot of gas anyway.
It would have made me so happy if, amongst all those burps, you just got the tiniest little or something. Do you know what I mean? Little, just a little pop. I'd have been happy. And I was waiting for it today. Maybe there is one. Maybe I've missed it. But no, there isn't. It's all about the burps.
And then Grandpa Joe, as he's walking by, you see a little hanger in his pants because the fart became something else.
Hanger.
Worst kill or worst thing I've done to a kid or
the chicken.
Anything. Oh, yes.
The chicken getting beheaded. And this movie is still a usurp, despite there being a chicken decapitation in this movie.
A real one.
It's a real chicken getting its head cut off. Yeah.
Real chickens, real snakes. We don't care.
It's really quick, but you can see it. It's there. I mean, like, you know, they will argue that it's in some religions. I guess that's the way that they deal with poultry. Yeah.
They lived a good life.
I'm sure.
You know, I mean, it got fed to something.
Yeah.
Right.
But it still is. I mean, it wasn't until years after I'd been watching it as a kid that I actually realized what it was. I still think, you know, that scene is incredibly nightmarish.
Would that chicken still be alive?
Who cares?
And then you get the snake going across the guy's mouth.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Some really freaky stuff.
There is. Nightmare. Okay.
Best moment.
Was that your worst kill as well, by the way?
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. You know, would it be great if at the end, when they got off, there was a bucket of KFC there? Anyone want a snack?
Best moment, I think, is Gene Wilder's entrance. I think, you know, that whole, I mean, because this guy's a mystery as it is. And when he comes out and starts to hobble towards the kids, and this is what is really cool about the fact that Gene Wilder argued to do this. He said after reading the script, Gene Wilder said he would take the role of Willy Wonka under one condition, that he would be allowed to limp and then suddenly somersault in the scene when he first meets the children. When director Mel Stewart asked why, Wilder replied that having Wonka do this meant that from that time on, no one will know if I'm lying or telling the truth. Stewart asked, if I say no, you won't do the picture. Wilder said, I'm afraid that's the truth. It's a great moment. Man. It is. And he just looks so cool doing it because he leaves it till the very last second to tuck his head under. And do that forward roll. I was watching it today and it's like he is literally a foot away from smashing his face on that carpet. He just tucks his head under at that. And the way that he, whether he rehearsed it or what, I don't know. But his body was so agile to be able to do that. It's so slick and cat-like what he does. It's terrific.
And it's so amazing because I don't think they told anybody he was going to do that.
No, he did it. And again, that's it. It's all about, do we trust this guy or not?
Yeah.
And from that moment there, when he starts talking to the kids, you start to relax and you see that really kind of generous and humble and genteel side to him. But as things go on and he starts dropping little dark comments into conversations, you start to think, what?
And it's all for a purpose, right? He's weeding out the kids.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't interact with Charlie, because Charlie's pure of heart and everything. And that leads to my best moment is him giving the chocolate factory over to Charlie, especially when Charlie hands over the everlasting Gobstopper. Because he knew Mr. Wilkinson, or AKA Slugworth, who he's pretending to be, well, that was the test.
Yeah.
Now, he could actually have taken that and he would have gotten money, and it would have gone nowhere, because it's Mr. Wilkerson. But when he says, a good deed shines in a weary world, because he actually won. But the whole test was him screaming at Charlie, which Peter didn't know was going to happen. That was also something that was a surprise. It was pure emotion coming from Gene, and Gene felt terrible to do that. But Charlie's emotion that you guys see watching this movie is absolutely genuine.
Yeah.
He thought Gene was actually, screaming at him.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
And it was perfect. It's perfect. And he just gives him a hug and says, I knew you won. I knew it. Forgive me. And I'm going to give you the chocolate factory. I want you to bring everybody here because I can't trust anybody. I can't trust a grown-up. I'm going to trust you because you're pure and you're a kid. You're going to do everything that I want you to do.
And then Willy Wonka disappears and Charlie's left to deal with all the dead kids.
And feeding the Oompa Loompas. Get in your cave, bastards. And then, but actually in the second book, they float off into space.
They do? Is that the glass elevator?
It called Charlie in the Glass Elevator. But you and I love this movie. This actual version of the movie. The Johnny Depp one, okay.
He's more of a child himself, is Willy Wonka in the Johnny Depp version, isn't he?
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of liked, I wasn't a big fan of that version, but I did quite like Wonka as a prequel to this. It felt right. And, those final moments, whereas it kind of bridges the gap between Wonka and Willy Wonka are terrific, I think. So,
yeah. There's nothing wrong with Bob Dylan playing Willy Wonka.
No, exactly. Yeah.
You lick my chocolate.
Very good. Very good.
Can you imagine Bob Dylan being Willy Wonka? Oh, we can go on and on, ladies and gentlemen. We just don't have the time because it's Easter weekend.
Yeah.
Darren, planning on looking for eggs or baking a ham?
Today I'm going to be watching The Long Good Friday. That's what I do every Good Friday. So I'm going to be enjoying that. I have a 4K version, which I've not yet watched, so very excited about that. And then I'm just going to chill out for the weekend.
Sounds good. I'll be working.
Oh, well, I am sorry.
I'm not. I'm getting that good old overtime.
Oh, okay.
That holiday pay.
Good.
But
good.
I will have. I'll be enjoying a nice, what do they say in Creep Show? A nice baked ham.
Lovely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be it for us. We'll be back again around some other holiday. What other holiday we got coming up? Whatever.
It'll be soon. It'll be soon.
It'll be soon. Other than that, have a happy Easter.
Have a happy Easter, guys.
As always, stick to the roads.
And the best of luck.
See you soon.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.